friends, we are at Camp 3 Campground. This is May 2025. This is our third time at this campground, so I just wanted to do some more campsite tours to help everybody be able to pick out their ideal campsite. So here we are at campsite 23. And isn't it beautiful here? So nice. But there is so much more greenery. Even from the last time we were here, I think was almost 2 years ago. So there's enough parking space to park 2 cars. But only 1 car is included in the reservation now. There's a spot where you could theoretically set up a tent, but it's not really even ground, and there's some rocks. Here's Adam.
I already christened the tent.
And here's our campsite. So we've got a nice picnic table here, which is movable. It's pretty dirty though, so we brought a tablecloth to put over the top of that. But the river is right there. I mean, this is a tributary from Kern River. But it's so nice. You can hear the babbling brook from our campsite, from our picnic table. Last year, or 2 years ago, I think it was, when we were here, it was even higher than this. Where I'm currently standing was underwater. A little bit of water, but water nonetheless, because the water lapped up around this giant rock here and around this way. But this year we haven't gotten as much rain, so it's a little bit lower, but the stream is still here, which is very different from how it was when we first started coming to this campground. And up here, we've got our bear box. Bears aren't as much of a problem in this area as are skunks. And some smaller wildlife. We decided to set up our tent up there so that we could give our friends who are coming to join us the shady camping spot down here, because they have a young child coming with them. And then we've got our fire pit over here, surrounded by a number of rocks that you could sit on if you don't have chairs. There is a strange setup with the grill to build your campfire on, but then there is a cooking grill that you can flip over the top there. And there you have it. That is campsite 23 at Camp 3 Campground along Kern River. Campsites 20 and 21. I'm not sure if 20 is meant to be part of the group campsite, because I'm pretty sure the group campsite is down this road. But there is a sign there about the group campsite, and over here you've got the sign for 20, but this is a really small parking space compared to the other campsites. I would think you could probably only get 1 car in here, but if you come down this way, you've got quite a bit of shrubbery that I feel like will make it a little bit more difficult to find a spot to put your tent. And over here you've got your picnic table. There is a fire pit with a grill. This one looks different from all the other ones that we've seen so far, and also kind of looks like it's falling apart, if I'm being honest. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hopefully replace this one soon. But also, there's supposed to be a bear box at every campsite, and I'm not seeing a bear box. So that's a little worrisome because there is some wildlife around here that you need to keep your food away from. Maybe that's a spot for a tent. I don't know, it's pretty uneven ground. Let's go down here and see what it looks like. Maybe this is a spot for a tent. It's definitely more even ground than up there. Yeah, it looks like that's kind of it for Site 20. Although on a year when we have a lot of rain, I bet this is a stream right here. We had an okay amount of rain this year, but not a lot. So the river is a little bit lower than it was when we were here 2 years ago, but still higher than it was when we were here 3 and 4 years ago. But yeah, so campsite 20, honestly not my favorite, and I'm really confused about why there's not a bear box. That's a little worrisome. But let's go over. There is Site 21 right there. And beyond that, you can see our stuff set up at Site 23. Well, let's walk over and check out Campsite 21. All right, Campsite 21. A lot more parking space here than at Campsite 20. Could definitely get 2 cars in here. And you've got a lot of flat open space to play with here. But again, with the strange grill and fire pit, if you look around the bottom here on the side, do you see how much that's falling apart? I'm gonna guess the ones at our campsites have been newer. Hopefully these ones will be replaced soon. Got a nice picnic table here. I mean, nice, it's just like all the other ones at the other campsites, although this one does look cleaner than the one was at our campsite. This one is bolted down, it looks like, so you can't move it. Although I don't know where you would really move it to, but you've got plenty of space here for a tent, or space over here for a tent. You know, you definitely want to stay as close to these tree lines as possible, just for the afternoon shade. But let's follow this little path here and see if it'll take us down to the creek. This creek was not here the first time that we came to this campground, but the Kern River was much lower. It was during a drought. So when we came here 2 years ago, after a lot of rain, the river had grown significantly, and there was this tributary. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. Nice babbling brook, but if you wanted to sit by the water, you're going to be in direct sunlight in the afternoon, which is not preferable to me. And there are a lot of other campsites here where you can sit in the shade to be by the creek, but you could wade across there to get to the main Kern River, but the currents are too strong for us to just go wade into Kern River this year, so that is not for me. I think this creek would be a better spot. Maybe bring a floaty and just you know, a pool floaty, and just hang out in the creek right there up against those rocks, so you don't actually go floating away. I've mostly been focusing on all of the sites on the western side of the campground because, in my opinion, those are the best campsites because you're closer to the river. Some of them are right along nice streams, and you get a lot more afternoon shade. But just for the sake of showing you what most of the rest of the campsites look like, I want to give you a tour of this one. So this is campsite 22. We have been camping at 23 over there the last couple nights. And you see all those trees over there, they offer a lot of afternoon shade. Whereas over here, this is all out in the open. But if you've got a big group of people with several tents, something like this might work for you. Just be aware that it's going to be hot. You're going to have a lot of direct sunlight like on your tents all day. But you got plenty of parking space here for 2 vehicles. And let's go check out. This one does have this big, cool boulder that could be fun to climb around on. You got your fire ring here. Plenty of space to put chairs all the way around the fire ring, which is really nice if you ask me. And this fire ring, it's not in the best shape, but it is in better shape than some of the other ones I've seen of this style. And you've got your picnic table over here, which is bolted down so you cannot move it. So I would definitely bring like a pop-up shade tent if you're staying at this campsite. But yeah, look at all this space that you have for tents. It looks like another campsite right over there, so this space you may have to kind of fight over. And there's more space over here. Honestly, not nearly as many big rocks to work around as a lot of the other campsites. And it looks like this might be a water spigot over here. Yeah, look at that. Water spigot that's right next to your campsite, so that's nice. Yeah, just be aware you will be in direct sunlight all day at this campsite. Here we are at campsite 25. We're camped over there at campsite 23, so it's not very far away, but it's not like right up next to each other. And this is your view from campsite 25. It's really lovely. We saw a bunch of hawks flying around up there last night. And here's campsite 25. So you've got plenty of space here to park 2 cars, but only 1 is included with your campsite reservation now. The second vehicle will be an extra $8 a night is what we paid in cash to the camp host when we got here. So you've got a picnic table here. It is chained down at this campsite. It's not at all the campsites, but at this one it is right now, so you can't move it. And then you've got a fire pit over here. This one looks very different from the one we have at campsite 23, but I think that this grill is better for cooking if you're one of those people that likes to cook over a campfire like us. And then you've got a bear box over here. It's a bit of a tilt, but it is tilted the opposite way from the one at 23. It's tilted away from you. So I think it will make closing it as one person a lot easier. And you do need to use the bear boxes here because while we are technically in bear territory, we've never seen or heard of bears in this area, but we have seen skunks. A lot of skunks in this area. So you got plenty of space to put a tent right over there. Flat space that is doesn't have any big rocks. But the best place, you've got a walking path through the trees there. The best place to put your tent at campsite 25 is if you just come down into the trees. Because in the summertime, the shade makes a huge difference in this area. And it can be really hot in the sun in the afternoons here. So, but look at all of this space. There's some rocks and stuff in the way. There's Adam. There's some rocks and stuff that you will have to maneuver around. But look at all this space where you could set up a tent. We used to set up our tent over there in that space, but it has overgrown quite a bit. And we would set up our hammock between these two trees here, which is beautiful, but you do have to be careful. Make sure you secure it properly because there's some big rocks that you will fall on if it falls, which would be rather unpleasant. And there's a path, a walking path back there that we're about to take to get to Kern River, or at least a tributary off of it. You can hear it from where we're standing right now. But like, look at how much space. We have set up, I think, 3 tents in this space. I think the last time we were camping in this campsite, our tent went right in here. I don't know if our new tent would fit because it's a little bit taller, but like a standard 4-person size tent, we fit in right here, and it worked out so perfectly. Because if you walk right down this way, if the river is high, the river might be right here. But it's not too high this year. It's definitely higher than it was when we first started coming to this campground, but it's not too high this year. So the tributary is right down here, and you can sleep in the you can set up your tent in the shade, sleep in the tree line, and hear this running water all night. And it's so lovely. Campsite 25 at Camp 3 Campground. We definitely highly recommend it. Site 27, here's the view from Site 27. You are right across from the bathrooms, so that can be either good or bad, depending on who you are, but still a really nice view. And plenty of parking space here. It's kind of hard to tell if this is all meant to be parking, or if maybe are you meant to put a tent there. I haven't been to this campsite before, so we are exploring it together. And over there you can see the picnic table for campsite 25, so you're not too far away, but there's plenty of shrubbery here to help give you a little privacy. It does look like, however, that would be the spot to put a tent up, which unfortunately is not in the shade yet. I think it's around 2 p.m. And it is rather warm here, even though it's just mid-May or so. But let's go down this path and just see what's down here. There might be a better spot for a tent down here. Oh yeah, here we go. So you've got your fire pit. It does have a grill on it. This looks just like the one from 23 where we're currently camping. Look at this big boulder. That's cool. Right in the middle of your campsite. You got a picnic table here. Looks like this one is tied down, so you won't be able to move it, unfortunately. But it's in a nice shady spot. And even in the morning, the sun comes up over here, over those mountains back there. So you'd have shade for a lot of the day over this picnic table. That's really great. And then here's your bear box. So a little shaded, a little sunny. It's pretty mixed. But here you go. That's the spot for a tent right there. 100%. Could also probably fit another small tent back there if you needed to. And let's see what's back here. There's a bit of a worn path leading back to the creek. Now, if you cross the river, if you cross this creek, you can get over to Kern River. But it's a little high this year. It's a little too high to get in. But look at this great spot where like you could bring a pool floaty and just kind of set it up against those rocks and just kind of lay there in the sun with the water. Man, that would be nice. And there's another kind of walk over this way. It looks like somebody marked it with some plastic bags or ribbons or something. Yeah, that looks like a decent spot to cross the creek to get over to Kern River if you want to go have a look at it. So here's your view across from 28. You are pretty close to the bathrooms, but there's no one immediately across the road from you, so that can be really nice just to feel a little more secluded. And you got ample parking here, definitely enough space for 2 vehicles. And your picnic table and your bear box and your fire ring are like right next to your parking space. So that can be good or bad depending on your, who you are and your preferences. Looks like you could put a tent over there, a small tent. But a lot of these campsites on the western side of this campground have some more space down in the tree line. So let's go check that out too. I think I'm hearing a frog in the distance. I'm not sure what that is. When we started coming to this campground 3 or 4 years ago, Kern River was pretty low, but we have gotten more rain in the recent years, and Kern River has gotten pretty high, so high that there are some streams that go through some of the campsites. So here's kind of a clearing where you could put a tent if you need to or want to, but it is pretty overgrown. But you have a pretty well-worn path down to the stream down here. Oh, this is a great spot for crossing if you wanted to go over to Kern River and see the full river, although it's too full to really wade into. But looks like this is a really great spot for crossing the stream. Some shade back there, but yeah, not really a better spot for a tent that I'm seeing. Let's see what's down over here. Yeah, it's pretty overgrown. There was a nice spot here if you want to come and sit on a rock, put your feet in the stream. It's not a bad campsite, but definitely not the best that you can find here at Camp 3. Here is campsite 29. Nobody directly across the street from you, but it looks like there's a worn path to get over to the bathroom over there. So that's kind of nice. Nice view of the mountains from across your campsite. And look at all this parking space. You could fit at least 2 cars in here. You've got the fire pit here, which has a grill, in my opinion. For those of you who like to cook over the campfire, this is probably the best setup. Got your picnic table right over here. It's much cleaner than the one at 23 where we are currently staying. You got your bear box over here, and then behind it you can see the bear box for the next campsite over. So you're kind of close together, but it's not like too close together. You could theoretically put a tent here, because and you know, you've got some flat open space, but there are some rocks in there. But let's go find Adam. He went exploring down this way, and there's often at these campgrounds a better space for a tent in the tree line. So let's go have a look and see what's down here. It's very rocky getting down, which is pretty, just a little harder to navigate if you are carrying equipment down here. But look at all this wide open space. Got some big rocks that you'd have to work around for your tent, but this is the spot, in my opinion, to put your tent, right down here. And there's plenty of height, so even our new taller tent that we got would be able to fit in here, which I feel like is kind of rare to find a spot like that that works with a taller tent in the tree line. And then coming down here, when the water's higher, this is probably all underwater, but this year it's high, but it's not too high, so you've got this nice creek running through. It's not as much of a babbling brook as some of the other campsites, but look at all this space. You could come down here and set up your chair, sit in the shade, put your feet in the water, cool off, because it can get pretty hot up here in the summertime. But I imagine there's another trail there that probably has access to the next campsite over. So you might have to share this space, but if you come up here during the week, there's hardly anybody at this campground, which is one of the reasons why we like it so much. And if you want, it looks like you could cross the little stream here up to over there and get over to Kern River. Oh yes, Adam wants me to point out that somebody set up a log over there where you can cross and you don't even have to get your feet wet. Look at that. Campsite 30. And here's your view across from campsite 30. Yeah, there is a water spigot that's just down there, and the bathrooms are pretty close by. And no one directly across the street from you, which I always think is nice. And you got plenty of parking space here. You could easily fit 2 vehicles in it. You can see campsite 29 next to you pretty clearly. So it's a little bit closer together than some of the other campsites here, but if you had like a group, then it would work out really well. You got your bear box over here. It is in the full sun, full afternoon sun, which isn't great, but at least this one has a bear box. They're all supposed to have bear boxes, but some of them don't. And this has got another one of those weird grills that's kind of falling apart, but honestly it's in better shape than some of the other ones I've seen. Nice rocks to sit on next to the fire pit. If you don't bring a chair, that's always nice. This one also has a different picnic table from the other sites. The other sites, it's wood. This one, I mean, sitting in full sun, it's obviously not too hot because Adam's touching it. But it looks like it's not bolted down. I see a tie around it, but is it actually bolted down? Oh yeah, it is. Ooh, okay, that's loose. Good to know.
There's a loose bolt right there.
So if you're coming to this campsite, I would say bring like a tablecloth and some cushions or something to sit on. That table's not the best, but as far as setting up your tent, I think the best spot is definitely down this path, which is a little rocky, you know, but it's not too bad, especially compared to some of the other sites. You just got to be careful when you're carrying equipment down here. But that's the spot right there where somebody obviously set up a tent already, and you'll get pretty much full shade in the afternoon. It's like, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 4 p.m. right now, and it's pretty warm, but in the shade it's much cooler, so that's definitely the spot to set up your tent. And the nice thing too is that there's a stream right down here. We did discover that there's a path down to this spot from this campsite and the campsite next to it. So again, if you have a group, that would work out well. If you are here just with one campsite, then you might have to share this spot with people camping up over here. But it's a decent spot. You could come and sit in the shade, put your feet in the water to cool off. And sometimes the water is going to be higher than this. Sometimes this stream might not even be here. Just really depends on how much rain we get in the winter time, because this water is pretty much all snow melt. And if you look around this tree up over here, somebody put a log down so you could cross the stream if you want without even getting your feet wet. Here is number 32. Here's the view across from 32. Got some big trees there, but beyond that are the beautiful mountains. There's another campsite across the way, but not directly, so let's see here. Lots of parking. You could fit 2 cars in here. There is another picnic table on the other side of that bush there, but decent privacy. You can't really set up a tent in there. It's fairly flat, but lots of big rocks that you would have to work around. So the option is to really go this way, which is where your bear box and your picnic table are. It's around 5 p.m. right now. Gosh, look at that view. Isn't that beautiful? It's around 5 p.m. right now, and these trees help so much with the shade in the afternoon. So this one actually has a bear box that is in afternoon shade, and that's a big deal. You got your nice picnic table. It is bolted down, so you cannot move it. But look at this big boulder. And somebody drew a little face on it. Isn't that cute? Lots of space to sit around the campfire. You'll need to bring some chairs though. It's a short ring. And it's looking pretty torn up on the side there. But it does have kind of a grill. Again, it's looking pretty torn up. These must be the older grills. The campsites 23 and 25 have newer grills, but these ones will still work if you need them to. But I think over here, this is a great spot for a tent right here. Nice and flat, no big rocks, and you'll have afternoon shade. That's a really big deal around here because it can get pretty hot in the summertime in this area. But let's see if we can find a path maybe down to the creek, because I can hear it And a lot of them do have paths. I don't know, does this count? This is a path, right? This seems like a path. Let's walk through and see what's back here. Oh, it's pretty overgrown though. Definitely no space for a tent back here. And it kind of ends in this little clearing, so maybe not that way. Let's look on the other side of the campsite and see if maybe there's another path from the parking area or something. Maybe back down over there. Go through some of these rocks here. How about here? Looks like there's actually a drop off here. So, might be able to get down to the creek that way, but it is really overgrown. So I'm not gonna walk down there in my shorts and water shoes. And yeah, you really can't get a tent back here because of all these big rocks. So that one spot is really the only option for your tent. So it's a decent campsite because it's got a bear box in the shade and in the afternoon shade. That's a really big deal, but no like river or stream access. So that's a bummer. I think you could probably get a better campsite here at Camp 3 Campground, but it is still really nice. So if you get stuck with this spot, you know, I wouldn't complain. Campsite 33. So you're right at this fork in the road. So there may be more traffic, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. The sun comes up over there in the morning. Nice view of the beautiful mountains. And you've got plenty of space here to park 2 vehicles if need be. Honestly, you might even be able to fit 3 in here, but I suppose it depends on the vehicles. And it's pretty spacious, honestly, compared to some of the campsites at this campground. You've got your bear box over here, which has this nice tree next to it to help shade it in the afternoon. Can get pretty hot around here in the summertime, so, and you do need to use the bear box, so having it in the shade is very helpful. And then over here you've got one of these strange picnic tables. A couple of the campsites have these kind of picnic tables. This one seems honestly longer than the picnic tables at the other sites. I would just worry about the surface getting a little too hot during heat waves. So if you're staying at a campsite with a table like this, I would bring a tablecloth and maybe some cushions or something to sit on. And also, the picnic table is right next to the fire pit, and the picnic table is bolted down, so I don't think you can move it. So that's kind of an awkward setup. This one, though, it has the cooking grate, so this grate that's already inside the fire ring folds down, and you can build your fire on top of it, and then use this grate that's outside of the ring right now to fold it over and cook on top if you want. I do like these fire rings better than some of the other fire rings I've seen around this campsite or this campground. But you will be like right next to your car. Your car would be right there, and you'd be hanging out right here. But you've got like you're right next to this tree line, so you've got some nice shade. And you've got this nice shrubbery here that's separating you from your neighbor campsite. So you could have some decent privacy here, but I don't know, let's figure out where we could really put a tent. Because I'm thinking that this spot right over here might be your only option. It's honestly kind of looking like it. It might just be that you put your tent right in here or right back over here. But this is a little overgrown. Got some rocks that you'll have to, some big rocks in the ground that you'll have to maneuver around. And then your neighbors are going to be right over there. So not like on top of each other, but definitely within eyesight. And I can hear the stream from here, one of the streams that have come off of Kern River this year, since the river's pretty high, but it looks like there is a drop off from this campsite, so you really have to kind of go down through the brush here to get to the stream, whereas at some of the other campsites the stream is almost like in your campsite, so you can take from that what you will. You might actually, there might be space down there to set up a tent down there if you're willing to carry your equipment down this rocky trail. So there might be, a better option down there to set up your tent in the shade. But you might have to compete for it with whoever's camping next to you over there. Campsite 34. And here's your view from across the way. The sun comes up over those mountains. And there's a loop of campsites that way. So this area, you may get a little bit more traffic than at some of the other campsites, but I don't know. There's hardly anybody here during the week. So if you come during the week, it'll be pretty quiet. You got plenty of parking space here. You could definitely fit 2 vehicles in here. And it's about 5 o'clock right now, so there's a good amount of shade, but I do think that these campsites that are on the western side of Camp 3 Campground are better because you've got this tree line that offers you some afternoon shade, which is very helpful. You got your picnic table here. It is bolted down, so you can't move it. But this site seems to be a lot more spacious than some of the other campsites that I've seen around here. You got a fire pit here that's honestly kind of like in the ground. And very different from the other grills setups that I've seen on the campfire rings in this campground. It kind of varies from site to site, but this one is unique from what I've seen so far. I don't know, those grills might get in your way from sitting around the campfire, but there is plenty of space to set up some chairs around that campfire ring. And then you've got space over here. You could definitely set up a tent right there. Lots of flat open space without rocks for a tent. And if you look over this way, you will be able to see your neighbors, so it's a little bit tighter than some of the other campsites in this campground, but not nearly as bad as some of the other campgrounds we've been to. You've got your bear box over here, which you should use because there is wildlife in this area. And if you listen, you might be able to hear the stream that is down there, which is a tributary from Kern River, which is fairly high this year. Not the highest we've ever seen it, but still high enough that there are extra little streams coming off. So you might be able to, it looks like there's kind of a path going down there that you could go explore and see if you can get stream access. But I know over here on the other side of the campsite, I found a path going down as well, because I found it when I was exploring that campsite that's right over there. But I'm not sure how to get there from this side. This is all pretty overgrown. It's way more overgrown than we've seen in the past, which is kind of a good thing. Yeah, here's another rocky path where you could get down, and there might be some space down there where you could set up a tent in the shade as well if you have more than one tent, but you would have to compete for that spot with whoever is camping at that campsite next to you. We're checking out campsite 35, and here's your view across from 35. You've got a nice clear view of the beautiful mountains over there, but you do also have a small campsite directly across the street from you, so that's something to consider. Although if you come up here during the week, there's hardly ever anybody here, so that's really nice. But this campsite, I think you could fit 2 vehicles in here back to back. It's definitely not the most spacious parking of all the campsites that I've seen at this campground. Speaking of which, you do have like your picnic table and everything over there, but you can very clearly see the campsite next to you, and you also have the restrooms right there. So that's great for some people and not for others. It's a little too close to the bathrooms for me personally. I think you just have too much traffic, too many people going past your campsite, and I prefer it to be a bit more quiet. But if you like to be close to the bathroom, then this might be the perfect site for you. It's around like 5 p.m. right now, so there's a good amount of shade. But a lot of this campsite is going to be in full sun in the afternoon, so that's something to consider as well. But you've got lots of space here for, honestly, you could easily fit 2 tents right in there. And if you needed to, you could definitely put another tent or 2 right in here, depending on how many people you have and how many tents you have and how big those tents are. Lots of big rocks to work around, but that's just kind of how this area is. So you've got your picnic table here. Looks like it is bolted down to that big rock down there. So you won't be able to move the picnic table. You would probably need to have a pop-up tent or something for shade in the afternoon. And then over here, you've got your fire ring, which is kind of almost buried in the ground, with these 2 grates that it looks like you could fold over the top for cooking if you want. Not my favorite style of fire ring setup. There are a couple of different setups at this campground, but to each their own. There's definitely plenty of space that you could set up a bunch of chairs around this fire ring, so that's a big plus in my book. You've got your bear box over here, which you do need to use because there is wildlife in this area. And look at the mountains back there. It is a really beautiful area. And if you go back this way, look, you could even set up another tent back here. If you have a big group, this might be the site for you. Especially if you have kids and stuff, you're right next to the bathroom, I don't know. Let's see if there's oh no, this is just, I thought this was maybe a path down to the stream, but it looks like it's just kind of an offshoot. I'm not really seeing a way down to the stream from here. But there is a stream down there coming off of Kern River, because Kern River is pretty high this year. So you can hear it from this campsite, but you can't get to it like you can from some of the other campsites. Campsite 36. And here's your view across from campsite 36. Nice view of the mountains. We do have another campsite right across the road from you. And you are also right next to the bathroom. And I mean like right next to the bathroom. But here is the parking area. So you could easily fit 2 cars in here. Honestly, maybe even 3. I suppose it depends on your cars. This site is a little more awkward though, because there isn't really a clear path to get over to your picnic table and stuff over here. Let's have a look. Let's go through these rocks, I guess. I see a bear box here, which you do need to use in this area. There's wildlife here. Still haven't seen a spot to set up a tent or anything yet. Still haven't spotted the picnic table and the fire ring yet. Let's see if we can find it. Round through here. There is the picnic table. That's a really interesting picnic table. I wonder if this is some sort of accessible site, because this picnic table is very tall. That's interesting. And it looks like it is bolted down, so you won't be able to move it, but you'll have really nice afternoon shade in this spot. And then here is your fire ring. And there's the bathroom right over there. It's a little too close to the bathroom for my taste, but if you like being close to the bathroom, then this is the spot for you. Here's your fire pit with some grills. I believe those can be folded back over onto the ground, so you can have access to actually make a fire. This one's a little bit tight to fit chairs all the way around, but definitely enough space to fit a few. Really, honestly, not sure where you are supposed to put a tent in here. I don't know if maybe this is just an RV spot or like a spot for camper vans or what. Also, I don't know if you can hear it, but Kern River, like, you can kind of see it through the overgrown trees. Kern River is really rushing by. It's pretty high this year. Not the highest we've seen it, but pretty powerful still. Yeah, I guess if you had a small tent, maybe you could set it up there. Otherwise, I guess, honestly, this would probably be the only spot to set up a tent. There's really not much space for tents at this site. And it also doesn't have access to, like, direct access to the river or the streams or anything like that. So, in my opinion, there are definitely better campsites to be had at Camp Three Campground. I'm not going to go too far into this one because it is occupied, even though I don't think the people are here yet. But here is campsite 37. And honestly, this looks like a decent spot. Maybe not my favorite, but you can see Kern River through the trees down there, and it looks like there might be a path to get down there. So 37, decent spot, especially if you have a camper trailer like these people obviously do. And here's your view across the road. We're getting pretty close to the campground entrance, so I would start thinking more about traffic in this area. But if that's not a problem for you, then great. You do have a water spigot right here, like right next to your campsite, so that's really convenient. And the bathrooms are only a campsite or two down this way, but you can't actually see them from your campsite, which to me is a plus. So yeah, I think not the best campsite at Camp 3, but I mean, look at that view. That's amazing. So right now we are looking at campsite 38. You're pretty close to the campground entrance, right around the corner over there. So you might get some traffic in this area, more traffic than some other spots. And you've got another campsite there across the road from you, although this big boulder is really blocking your view from it. So that's nice. Got a nice view of the mountains, and the sun comes up over those mountains in the morning. But here you've got a lot of parking space, a lot of parking space. You could fit multiple cars in here if you needed to. I think this may also be meant for RVs or camper trailers or camper vans and stuff like that. So if you have one of those, then maybe this will be the spot for you. And these trees really help with afternoon shade, because it can get pretty warm in this area in the summertime in the afternoon. So the afternoon shade is really important. You got your bear box over here. Looks a little awkward to get into. Maybe we should go around and take a look at it from the other side. You could put a small tent in here if you need to. I think a pretty small tent, but there is a little bit of space nonetheless. And look at that Kern River right there. It is a little high this year, higher than I would be comfortable with getting into it to wade into to cool off or swim or anything. But it looks like there's some really nice rocks down there you could go lay on if you want to sunbathe and listen to the river. You can hear it really well from up here too, so that's really nice. Let's go around here. Again, this beautiful tree is going to offer you a lot of afternoon shade in this spot, which is so valuable here. And here we've got your picnic table. And on the other side of the picnic table, I think space for another tent, a larger tent if you needed it. And it looks like the picnic table is bolted down, so you can't move it. But I mean, it's in a pretty excellent spot as far as shade goes. And then the only problem that I'm really seeing here is this this fire ring, because it's looking pretty torn up. And also, how are you going to sit around the fire? There, you know, it's going to be pretty awkward. I guess some people could sit on the picnic table over here. You could put a chair or two, you know, on the other side, and then I guess people could sit on those rocks. They might be a little bit further away from the fire than they would like, but it's just a little awkward. And it's also pretty tilted, the fire ring itself, and it's pretty torn up, honestly, on the bottom. So hopefully they replace this one soon, but I don't know, that looks a little worn down to me. And then getting to the bear box, yeah, I still think it's awkward even from this side because it's kind of behind this little tree here. You gotta come up here. Yeah, it's in a strange spot. I don't know if that can be moved. But it's gonna be pretty awkward getting stuff in and out of that bear box, especially over this uneven ground and, you know, just around this tree. But if you have like a camper trailer, I think this spot would be nice. My only concern about it at that point would really be the fire ring. So right now we are looking at campsite 39, and here you are like right next to the campground entrance. It's that road right there, and you're also right across from the camp host, so that can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. You got a nice view of the mountains here. You also have a water spigot right across the street from your campsite, so that's nice. Gosh, it's so pretty here. And here you have space for 2 to 3 vehicles to park. I suppose if you had a small camper trailer, you could make that work as well. And your campsite is all like right next to your parking spot. So for some people that's great. For some people it's not, you know, to each their own. But here we've got the campfire ring. He's a very noisy bird. I think I'm coming into his territory. You've got your campfire ring. Those grates fold back so that you can actually have access to build your campfire. Some nice rocks around the campfire where you could sit, or you could put some chairs on the other side. If you come down this way, you can actually see Kern River through these branches. It's a little, I think, hard to see in video, but Kern River is rushing along down there. I'm sorry, Mr. Bird. Might even be a path to walk down to some rocks down this way, but Kern River's a little too high for swimming this year. Over here you could definitely put a decent sized tent. There are some rocks that you'll have to work around, but I think it's doable. And then over here you've got your picnic table. Looks like it is bolted into the ground, so you won't be able to move it, but I honestly don't know where you would move it to. And then over here, this really looks like your only other option for a place to put a tent. Again, a couple of rocks that you'll need to maneuver around, but that's just kind of the deal at this campground in this area. And then you've got your bear box right over here. Easy access from your parking space, which is right there. So you'd be hanging out right next to your car, which can be good or bad, you know, depending on how you look at it. But it's a bit of a smaller campsite compared to some of the other spots at this campground, but definitely doable and shady. That's the afternoon shade in this area is really important. So putting your tent down there where it will be in the shade almost all day would be a huge, huge plus. Campsite 40. And here is your view across from Campsite 40. Beautiful mountains. It's the morning right now. However, you are also right next to the campground entrance, so there's going to be a lot of traffic going by, which I would not be a big fan of, but you know, you can choose if you're willing to deal with that or not. Let's take a look at the actual campsite though. You got plenty of parking space here. You could easily fit 2 cars in here. Lots of big rocks to sit around and sunbathe on if that's your thing. And it does look pretty private, to be fair. It looks like you'll be pretty secluded from your neighbors. So let's start with this picnic table. I've seen this style of picnic table at some of the sites at this campground, and personally I'm not a fan. It just looks like it might get really hot in the afternoon sun. Although you do have this tree here that will help with some afternoon shade. But if it were me, if I was staying at one of these spots that has this kind of picnic table, I'd definitely be bringing a tablecloth and some cushions to sit on, because it just does not look comfortable. And it looks like it is bolted down, so you cannot move this table. And then over here, you've got your fire pit. This is a pretty good looking fire pit, honestly. It looks much newer than some of the other fire pits at this campground. So that's nice. You've got a nice grill to cook on over your, looks like your whole campfire. So that's great. Nice fire stick there someone left. Over here you've got a nice big spot for a tent. Again, this small tree here may offer some afternoon shade. So that's nice because it can get real hot here in the summertime. You know, you got some rocks along the edges, but honestly it looks pretty clear for setting up a tent, so that's a good spot for a tent. You've got your bear box over there, which is in morning shade, but unfortunately will be in afternoon sun, so any food that you keep in there is going to unfortunately bake in the afternoon sun. But you do need to use the bear box. There is some wildlife in this area. But you got other really good spaces over here to put a tent. You can put a tent right in there, and these trees will offer some shade in the afternoon to keep it cooler in your tent. And honestly, this looks like the best spot because you've got this tree here giving you shade in the morning, and then these trees over here will give you shade in the afternoon. It's a nice shady spot for your tent there. And you can hear Kern River. Let's see if we can see it through the trees. Yep, there it is. So you could walk down this rocky path to get down there to sit by the side of the river. That looks nice and relaxing, assuming you can make it up and down these rocks. The river's a little too high to go swimming in this year, but it's still nice to go sit by it and put your feet in. Yeah, it looks like that's the only way down to the river from this campsite. So yeah, I think this is a decent campsite for sure. Site 41. So here's your view across from 41. It's the morning right now, so the sun is beating down on us a little hard, but it's not too bad yet. There's the campground entrance over, right down there. So you're not right next to it, but you may still have a little bit of traffic noise. But look at all this parking space. If you had like a camper trailer, you could get that in here. You could get a couple of cars in here for sure. All right. Got a nice tall fire pit here. That back grate you can fold down and build your fire on top of, and then the other grate can be folded over to be cooked on. So that's nice. I think I like these style of fire pits, and they're definitely in better shape than some of the other ones around here. Got some rocks that you could sit on around the fire. Honestly, getting some chairs around the fire is going to be a little tough because of the rocks and stuff with the uneven ground around the campfire. Got your picnic table here, which is bolted down, it looks like, so it cannot be moved. But I think this tree will probably offer some afternoon shade to help out with the picnic table. Got your bear box over there. Hopefully that tree would also put that in afternoon shade. And it looks like you got a spot for a tent right here. Smaller tent. Definitely a 4-person could fit in there, but anything bigger than that might get a little awkward because of these big rocks that you've got to stay in between. And then you've got this spot back here. This looks like it would be a great spot for a tent because you've got shade in the morning from this tree over here, and then you've got trees over here that are going to give you shade in the afternoon, so that's really nice. And you can hear Kern River. Look, there it is right down there. Doesn't look like there's really a good way to get down there to sit by the river, but you can hear it at least, and that's really nice. Let's see if maybe there's a path over here. If you had like a 1 or 2 person tent, you might be able to fit it in here. Yeah, really no path down to the river, but nice, soothing, rushing water sounds. And it looks like that's about it for this campsite. You got plenty of shrubbery here to give you some privacy from your neighbors, so I really like that. Campsite 42. And restrooms are right there. So you're close, but you're not right on top of it. And here's your view. So that's really nice, I think. I mean, the views from pretty much all the campsites are really nice. But you've got plenty of parking space here. You can definitely fit 2 vehicles here. You could probably get a camper trailer in here. And look at all this space. It looks like that's getting into your neighbor's campsite territory. But let's check it out over here. I think I saw some good open spaces for tents. Yeah. Plenty of wide open space over here. Oh, there goes a lizard. So your neighbors are on the other side of that tree there, but at least there's some shrubbery giving you a little privacy and separation. That's nice. But you could fit a tent in there. It's a little uneven ground with some rocks around the edges, but you can make it work. Same thing over here. Let's go down and check out the rest of the campsite. Lots of big rocks, which I think look nice, but they can make it difficult to find a spot for your tent. Here's your picnic table, which is, it looks like bolted down, so it looks like it can't be moved. I would definitely bring a pop-up shade tent for this picnic table at this spot, because you just don't really have a whole lot of tall greenery over here that's going to give you much afternoon shade, unfortunately. Here's your fire ring. Got a grill inside to build your fire on top of, and then another grill that folds over that you can cook on top of. That one looks a little rusty, but I've honestly seen fire pits in worse shape at this campground. So this one's not too bad. We've got your bear box over here. Some decent shade in the morning, but in the afternoon it's going to be in full sun. And down here, I mean, I guess you could maybe put a tent in. Yeah. Yeah. You can put a tent in here. You're just going to be a little close to the fire pit, you know, so be careful about that. And over here you've got Kern River. It's not too high this year, but it's definitely higher than I would be comfortable with for swimming and wading into the water. But it's nice to have the water sounds and be able to sit by the river. Although it doesn't look like there's really a good way to get down there from this campsite. Let's check over here and see if maybe there's a path. Yeah, I guess you could try to get down there, but it does look a little sketch. That boulder would be so nice to sunbathe on if that's your thing. I guess you could put a tent in here as well. Yeah, it's a little uneven ground, but you could make it work if you needed to. Campsite 43, not to be confused with campsite 44 that's next to it. This one is campsite 43 over here. Let's start with looking at your view across from your campsite. So that's really beautiful. The mountains are great. The sun comes up over there, so it's still morning right now. You're right across from the bathrooms, which can be good or bad depending on who you are and your preference. You got a water spigot right down there, and then plenty of parking space. You could easily fit a few cars in here. So this campsite, you know, kind of bleeds into its neighbors a little bit. You got a lot of wide open spaces, but not as much shade as the other campsites, some of the other campsites along the western side of this campground. But if you have several tents, then you've got options for where to set them up over here. It's just that they're all going to be in full sun all day. You've got your fire pit over here with a grill that can fold over for cooking. Plenty of open space around the fire pit to put chairs for everybody to sit around the campfire. And then you've got your picnic table over here. And I see a chain attached to it, but I'm not sure if it's actually bolted down. You might be able to move this one. I wouldn't rely on that. I don't know where you would want to move it to, really. But definitely I would bring a pop-up shade tent for this picnic table for the daytime. You've got more space to put a tent over there, but right on the other side of that little tree and that rock is the neighboring campsite. So there's not as much separation between the campsites over here. But you do have Kern River right down here. It's not too high this year, but those currents can be really strong, so you got to be careful if you're trying to go into Kern River. And yeah, it bleeds right over into your neighbor's campsite. There's your neighbor's picnic table. However, I do think this is your bear box. So unfortunately, that's just kind of in full sun just about all day. So any food you put in there is gonna kind of bake in the sun, unfortunately. But you could put a tent right in here. Just be aware that your neighbors are gonna be right there. Campsite 44, not to be confused with campsite, I believe that's 43, right next to it. You've got a water spigot right down there, and you are right across from the bathrooms. So that can be good or bad depending on who you are. Still have a nice view of the mountains though. So I think this campsite would be good to book if you have a big group and you're booking multiple campsites, because these two campsites kind of bleed into each other and you're parked like right next to each other. So if you've got a big group, this might be a good option for you. You've got plenty of parking space here. You could definitely fit like a camper trailer in here or a few cars. And then over here you've got your picnic table. I personally am not a big fan of this style of the picnic table. I would suggest bringing a tablecloth and some seat cushions, because this just does not look comfortable to sit at on its own. And this one, I can't see it being bolted down like most of the other picnic tables. So I don't know, you might be able to move this one. Oh no, I think I do see a bolt that's kind of buried in the dirt. But definitely I would bring a pop-up shade tent for this table. You've got your fire ring right over here. It's in pretty good shape, it looks like. And this style of fire ring, there's a couple different styles of fire rings at this campground, but this style I think is one of the best for cooking with. So you've got space over there beyond the picnic table where you could set up a tent. Just be aware that you are bleeding into your neighbor's space. You could see their fire pit over there. But over here you've got space for a tent. And this tree here might offer you some afternoon shade. That's really important in this area because it can get hot. And let's see if we can find a bear box. Ooh, look at this spot for a tent. But your neighbors are going to be right there, so just be aware of that. But this spot under that overhang of that tree, with these trees over here offering you more shade in the afternoon, that's the spot for a tent right there for sure. But you do have plenty more space over here where you could put some more tents. And here's the bear box. It's a little odd that it's so far back here, but there you have it. It is important to use the bear box in this area because there is wildlife that can come out and try to get your food. And it looks like somebody set up a makeshift fire ring here. Don't do that. That's not good. That's how wildfires get started. So you can see your neighbors right there, their bear box and their fire pit and stuff. So if you've got a big group, this would be a good spot. But if it's just you, just be aware that you're going to be pretty close to your neighbors. And then down here we've got Kern River. Looks like you could probably climb down over these rocks to get down there and put your feet in. I think the currents are a little too strong to go swimming in the river this year, but it's nice to have it there nonetheless. Looks like there's maybe even a little beach down there where you could go lay down if you wanted. campsite 45. Here's your view from across from 45. Got a nice big tree here that's offering a little bit of shade over the road right now. But it does kind of obstruct your view of the mountains a little bit. And here's your parking space. You could definitely fit 2, maybe even 3 cars in there. You got a water spigot right there at your campsite, so that's nice. Oh, and there goes a little brown squirrel. So this area will probably be good if you've got a big group, because you've got space over here to put tents, but you are kind of bleeding into your neighbor's campsite, because that's their bear box over there, and this is your bear box here. So if you've got a big group, this could be a good option for you. Just be aware that if you're coming here on your own, you might kind of be on top of each other. So you've got your bear box here that is actually going to be in shade in the afternoon. So that's really nice. So your food doesn't just bake in there like an oven. Got your fire ring here with a grill to use for cooking. This other grill you can fold down and build your fire on top of it. So that's nice. You've got your picnic table pretty close to your fire ring. And it is bolted down, so you cannot move it. These trees over here may offer some afternoon shade, but it's probably not going to be until late afternoon, so I would suggest a pop-up shade tent for this picnic table. And there's also plenty of space around this campfire ring to put chairs and everything, so everybody can sit around the fire. And then over here you got plenty of open space for a couple of tents. But they're all going to be in the full sun, so just be prepared for that, because it can get hot in the afternoon. And let's see, down here, that's going to your neighbor's campsite there. Yeah, there's not really a way to get down there, but there's Kern River. It's nice to have the river noises right at your campsite. Well, let's check it out over here and see if maybe there's a path to get down to the river. Some of the campsites have direct access to the river, or at least a stream. Yeah, here you go. When the water is higher, this is probably all going to be underwater here. So then you'll really have riverfront views. But look at this nice little beach down here, where you could go and hang out, play on that rock like that lizard is doing. That's a big lizard. The currents are too strong to really go swimming in Kern River, but it'd be a nice place to go sit on the beach and put your feet in. So apart from there not being shade for tents, this is, I think, one of the better campsites here. This is along a smaller loop, so I think you'll get less people down here, but we'll have to have a closer look around. You do have a nice view of the mountains. And you've got a water spigot right there, so that's really nice. Close access to a water spigot. And here's your parking. You can fit a few cars in here, but it's a little more rough than some of the other parking spaces. A little more uneven. Adam is looking at some birds up there. Oh, yeah, some hawks flying around. Oh, there's a third one over there. Nice. That is really cool to see. All right, well, this is an interesting campsite because it's all kind of slanted, honestly. But you got your bear box under this beautiful tree here that's going to offer you great shade. So your bear box is going to be in the shade pretty much all day with this tree, and your picnic table is going to have some nice afternoon shade from this tree as well. So that's a really big plus at this campground. Your picnic table is bolted down as well, so you can't move it, but I honestly don't know why you would want to. So it'll be in the sun in the morning, but in the afternoon when it gets hotter, it'll be in the shade, so that's great. Here's your fire ring. You've got a nice grill to fold over and cook with, if that's your thing, and there's plenty of space around the fire ring to set up chairs so everyone can sit together around the campfire. Now let's figure out where to put a tent. The road is right there, as is the water spigot, which other people might be coming to use as well, so that's just something to keep in mind. Back here is definitely a good option for putting a tent. It's going to be in full sun in the afternoon, but you'll have some shade in the morning, so that's nice. And it is right next to the road, yeah. I suppose you could put a tent in this space right here. Got a couple of rocks that you would need to work around with your tent stakes and everything, but I think you could probably make that work. Back there, though, that's the spot. That's definitely the spot for a tent. Because you'll have shade from this nice tree in the morning, and then you'll have shade from these trees in the afternoon. So definitely, yes, this spot. If I was staying here, that's where I would set up my tent for sure. Let's go check out around down here where the river is and see if we might have river access directly from the spot. If you had like a small, like 1 or 2 person tent, you could definitely set it up back here. There's a path to your neighbor's campsite, but you definitely have more separation from your neighbors at this campsite than at some of the others we've seen. Let's go down here and see. Oh, there goes a lizard. Yeah, you could absolutely walk down there. Look at that cute little beach. The river's a little high for swimming this year, because those currents I know can be really strong and take people by surprise. But it's a nice little beach. You might have to share it with your neighbors, but it's a really nice little beach if you can climb down these rocks here. Let's go around here to the other side and see if maybe there's another spot. Although I doubt you're gonna really beat that little beach. What a nice view. What a nice view of Kern River. Right from your campsite. That's so nice. Let's see what's down over this way. Ooh, a nice shady spot where you could come set up your chair and hang out down here. And you could climb down here, I think pretty easily. Set up a chair down there. Just to look at the river, have a drink, hang out, relax. In a nice little secluded spot. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. We share practical and affordable travel tips about camping, train travel, cruises, and more. See you in the great wide somewhere.